Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Shirish Yande. So he is a urologist from Pune. He is the uh, consultant at the Department of Urology in the Ruby Hall Clinic in Pune and the Director of Academics and Research at Ruby Hall, Pune. He has a great following as far as patients and his colleagues are concerned. I have heard him in urology meetings that I have attended. His special area of interest is urodynamics and female stress urinary incontinence, erectile dysfunction. Apart from all the other routine work that urologists do as far as endourology, kidney transplants are concerned, I have always enjoyed meeting him when I have gone to urology meetings, both at our hospital and at other places. So without uh, wasting any more of your time, I'm going to ask Dr. Shirish Yande to please start his presentation. Shirish, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mohan. Thank you so much. And I think it's a great honor for me to be on this platform and for ISN as well. This is for the first time that I've been on this platform of ISN. And I think presentation is integral part of our career, and we all need to share, teach, and communicate with people. And I think presenting becomes a tremendous art and an extremely useful art. It is an integral part of our career, and we all have to be able to be part of this. I have no disclosures to make, but I would like to start my presentation with a statement that no one was born with the art of speaking. Everyone had to cultivate oneself, and I can give you hundreds of examples of people who stammer, who cannot properly speak, but have ultimately, by sheer effort, evolved into very popular international speakers. I have several examples of that, which only means it is not just an art, there is also a science behind it. If you try hard enough, everyone can cultivate this wonderful art of communication and presentation. That's why I say this is an art and science of presentations, and this is how I would like to put it in the first place. And let me just give you a few basic tips as to how you begin in your presentation. It's quite a different topic given to me after Madhuri Datta's wonderful discourse on how to raise funds and so on. It was a very inspiring talk. And I think we have a complete deviation from the theme, but I think it has to be a part of the game, as Dr. Mohan has said. Anyway, the art of presentation begins under 4 heads. Good sound preparation, rehearsal of what you have prepared, actual delivery of the material, and we could take into account some spatial situations. That is how I would like to start. Now, what does preparation mean? Preparation starts with writing the complete text. This is particularly for the novice who are presenting on a junior level. I think they must write the complete text, and it is not a good practice to read from your notes because people don't show any interest if you read from your notes. So when you're writing the speech, write under 3 heads. Number 1 is introduction of your speech, then the main body of the speech, and the conclusion. That's the 3 heads that we talk about. What does introduction say? I would say that directly introduce the headings. Do not bother about cutting jokes and deviating the people's attention. Directly introduce the heading. People have come here to hear what you're going to talk about. Address the subject promptly. And you're writing for example, if you're talking about, say, management of azoospermia, what you need to talk is options to the couple, microsurgical procedures, and assisted reproductive technologies. So if you introduce that in your introduction, then people know what to expect in the talk ahead, and therefore they will know that you're going to talk about benefits and limitations of surgical options, benefits and limitations of assisted reproductive technologies, and you can talk about cost, one-time, multiple pregnancies, genetic defects, and so on, and write the conclusions. So your introduction will primes the audience as to what's coming their way in the next few minutes. Next comes the main body of your speech. This is by far the most important part of your speech. This is what you've come here for. And the first principle is take your lecture seriously. That is, put across the thought about whom you are going to address and what they need to know. And you must write it down completely as to what they need to know, what they're expecting from you. And secondly, know your audience. It's very important for us to know whom you're speaking to, and your language, your short forms, and your the entire jargon has to be match and suit the audience you're going to speak. Quite often you find that there's some senior people sitting in the audience in the first row, and when you're talking, you want to impress them with your knowledge. But remember, when you're writing the main body of a speech, you must pitch it to the most junior, because you must take the entire audience with you. The last person in the audience must be addressed thoroughly so that the whole audience is with you. So do not worry about who is listening to you in the first row. Worry about the last person and take him with you. So your main speech must be written in such a way that you are taking the entire audience with you, and be absolutely basic and simple. This is not a place to show off, because they have not come to know what you know, but they have come to know what they need to know. And therefore, write down what they need to know is most important. Showing off does not actually make any difference, and it may make a very temporary impression, but does not carry the long-term information. Main body, when you're writing the main body, some other principles are: use simple language. Mind you, a simple language is much more effective in carrying the message than bombastic words. Use small sentences because they understand very easily, understandable, and the message is carried much more smoothly and much more effectively. Avoid bombastic words because they don't do anywhere. So that is about writing. And respect the class of your audience. I mean, content should be tailored to the needs of the audience. You have to understand their level of understanding. You will be talking to a group of general practitioners, you're talking to a group of junior students, or you're talking to postgraduates, you're talking to your colleagues. You'll have to tailor the writing according to the needs of the audience. I'll give you some examples. And this is something, an example. As a urologist, we talk about TCC, and TCC usually means transitional cell carcinoma. And a urologist may say, in a case of TCC of renal pelvis, always scope with a view to perform a contrast study such as an RGP. Now, if we're talking to a group of general practitioners, or talking to a group of nephrologists for that matter, what is TCC? I mean, not everybody would know TCC. When you say scope, which scope? What kind of a scope you're talking about? What is contrast study? What is RGP? No, you have to change your language completely. You have to come down to the basics and tell them what they need to know. For example, what you could modify your sentence, the same sentence, in a way that they'll understand well. And that sentence would be: in a case of transitional cell tumor of the renal pelvis, cystoscopy and retrograde pyelography are essential. And that carries the message clearly as well as effectively. So depends on, so this is about addressing the audience and get to know. Short forms. Short forms is something can be extremely irritating. I've seen some of the best super specialists talking to the audience and use short forms in their own super specialty, which means nothing to majority of us. Even in the same subspecialty, for example, I will give you some examples. UD in urology either means urethral dilatation or urodynamics. SI could mean stress incontinence or sexual intercourse. Okay, CMV for a nephrologist is cytomegalovirus infection. For an intensivist, it is controlled mechanical ventilation, and for a cardiac surgeon, closed mitral valvotomy. So why use short forms? At least in the introduction of your talk, tell them what you mean by these short forms first, and then you're allowed to use short forms. But by and large, avoiding short forms helps you a great deal in communicating properly. And I think communication is by far the most important part of this. And when you come to conclusion, what you need to do is summarize your talk fully. That means you return to the concepts that you have introduced in your main body of your speech. Give fewer but clear messages. That's absolutely a part and parcel of your conclusion. Do not introduce new concepts in the conclusion, and that will be a bad manner. Okay. And finally, conclusion should be well rehearsed and prepared. And I'll give you an example of what a well-rehearsed preparation is. But let us have about a small discussion about the slides. You all make slides. We're all good at PowerPoint and various other ways. Some people use Apple, people use Microsoft. But the slide saga is the same. How many slides and how often? By general principle, it is believed that you should not use more than 3 slides per minute. I would like to keep even smaller number, 2 slides per minute would be better, because you need to spend some time on the newer concepts which you're talking about. So those slides. Then, of course, what color issues? Black text on white background is the best because it gives you the best effect and it communicates pretty well. I tend to use color text on colored background, but it will be a bright text on the color background. So you can use any color if you like, but keep it absolutely simple. No frills, because frills only distract the people. Look at this now. You're all this distracting the people. You're swaying away from the topic that you've come to talk about. And therefore, keep it absolutely simple, because it is the most important part is the message that you have to give to the audience. What font would you use? Well, Times New Roman, Calibri or Arial, perfectly fine. My favorite is Comic Sans MS, but do not use these fancy types because they only distract the audience. Lucia handwriting and various kinds of fancy types. They don't give, sometimes it's difficult to read, then you find very difficult for people to comprehend. And therefore you have to use very simple slides, simple fonts, which give the message very clearly. Avoid animation and automations because they only distract the audience and sway people away from the messages. Do not use silly entries and exits. Slide entering from the corner and going into the sky and things like that. And of course, ensure that your videos and images all work properly. This has to be done. This is a part of your preparation actually. Next comes to rehearsal. I think this is by far the most important part of your speech, but this is how you're going to deliver the message. So keeping time. Now, one must talk, one must find out how many minutes he's actually speaking and accordingly go on clipping, go on trimming your text and trimming your presentation. I would generally believe that whatever your time you have given, you only consume 85% of time, because remember this time required to invite you to the podium, then you start looking after the acoustics, pointer, and then you start your talk. And then some point is time is spent in actually giving you the bouquet or whatever, and you coming down. So some time has to be kept for that. And other thing is, you sometimes find out that you speak a little more than what you've decided. And that is a part of anxiety also. Decide what you want to say when. So if you're anxious, you may end up uttering what you did not want to utter. If you happen to do that, keep some time for that. So really speaking, keeping time. Today, in any national international conference, if you overshoot your time, you will not be respected. So keeping time, absolutely mandatory. Try and practice how much time you take. Put a stopwatch and see how much time you take. Trim your text as according to the needs. Practice at leisure time. When will you practice? Where do you practice? I think that some of the key sentences you want to speak with real importance, you need to practice well. I find it your best time to practice is when you're brushing your teeth, when you're sitting on a commode or taking a shower. Some of the best punchlines have occurred to me when I'm under a shower. So practice what you're going to speak. Finally, I think one more message that I would like to give you to the students here who are juniors in this is record your voice. What you speak is heard by you through the skull bones, and that's a different voice, okay? When you speak to the audience, the voice goes through the microphone and to the air and reaches them, and it sounds completely different. If you want to know how it sounds, record it and play it back to you. That's an important part. If you do that again and again, you'll find that you are not, your delivery is not as much as you believe it is. For example, you slur some words. You may go too fast at points. You do not pause enough at some points, and your sound sometimes produces, appears very high pitched at times. So if you record your voice and play it back, you can self-correct yourself. It's like looking into the mirror and presenting yourself. And it's really, really important that recording a voice and play it back. Finally, teach someone else. Now, this is also, I tell my postgraduates, if you want a topic to master, teach somebody else. By teaching, your thought process is running ahead of your speech. And then you come to know the lacunae in your knowledge, and you get the opportunity of coming back, checking it up, and making it a perfect presentation. This is an important aspect as well. Okay, if you teach someone like a colleague or your student, he may not learn, but you may learn a lot. So it's a part of your presentation practice. I think it's a good idea to teach somebody else, so you get your topic much better in your mind. You get to know it like you need in your knowledge, and you end up making it more perfect. So I think rehearsal is an important part of your presentation. And then comes the delivery. In delivery, I would like to talk under preliminary checklist, control of anxiety, respect the class of your audience, and delivery of the material. Preliminary checklist, we'll come to that one by one. Well, you have to look and feel good. How do you feel good? Well, wear your favorite clothes. You have to feel well. Make some friendly gestures to your colleagues and try and elevate your mood. Look, if you look good and if you feel good, then you obviously do well. Okay. While you're sitting in the audience awaiting your turn to be called, you can assess the acoustics. Which microphone is working best? Which position you need to have? Position of the podium. Some podiums are taller than the speakers, and you may just barely see your forehead and eye and upper eyelids, and you will not be able to see anything else. You have to know that. In that case, you have to come out of the podium and face the audience directly. All these things you can make out by sitting in the first row or a second row while awaiting your turn to be called. And you can do this preliminary checklist. Is very, very important, and that will definitely add a flavor to your presentations. Okay, acoustics is a subject of my great interest. I will not spend too much time on that, but I think position of microphones and reflection of sound. Acoustics is something, remember, in a musical concert, for example, 50% of impact depends on the quality of acoustics of sound. Majority of event managers that we have here do not have any concept about the acoustics, let alone we doctors. It is not for us to know, but the event managers need to know how should be the acoustics of a hall. Just having bare four walls and having a mixer unit and microphone and speakers is not acoustics. Acoustics you need to take care of reverberations, echoes, the sound goes on planning, the sound goes on reflecting from the ceiling, the sound goes reflecting from various other parts, and it reflecting from the sound, reflecting from various other parts, it reaches. So by the time the sound reaches the audience, it may have got a tremendous resounding, and the sound may get muffled. Of course, it is not in our control, but good acoustics, such as modern cinema theaters in multiplexes, they have absorbers and diffusers which will give the correct quality of acoustics to your ears. Of course, there are some special effects which they add, but by and large, I think acoustics has to be understood. What we can do at least, is make sure when you are awaiting a turn sitting in the audience, make sure to find out which is the best microphone which is working, which way do you have to face the microphone so you'll be heard better, or which position you should take to be able to be heard better. That's the least we can do. If everything is not in your control. But I think acoustics is now getting better and better in auditoria, and we need to take, because the entire impact of your speech will depend at least partly on the quality of acoustics of the theater. Apprehension. I think apprehension is a part of the game. Most seasoned orators experience some anxiety. And I think some of what apprehension is a must, because if you have an apprehension, then you will focus on your topic better. You will be able to concentrate better. If you don't have any apprehension, then you might sound casual and you might sound overconfident. I think somewhat apprehension is better, but too much of apprehension will destroy your performance. Now, how would you deal with this apprehension? There are certain few things that I have in mind. Normally, when the morning of your presentation, your pulse is slightly higher, because there's anxiety in your mind in the morning. When you enter the theater or the auditorium, your pulse rate may go up to 100 because the time has come. The previous speaker is called, your pulse is much higher. It's pounding now. And when actually called, Abhi mar gaya. Yeah, and it may not be 160, I'm just exaggerating, but yes, your pulse is absolutely the highest pace, running at a high pace, and that can sometimes affect your performance. And when actually speech begins, your pulse rate does come down because you have carried or gathered some self-confidence by then. When discussion part starts, your pulse further goes down, and then you come to the baseline only when you return back to your seat. That is a general experience for all of us. Now, how do you come across? How do you circumvent apprehension? I think the first part of circumventing apprehension is sound preparation. Your preparation must be so sound and so good that you shouldn't have any apprehension. I feel that while you're awaiting your turn, sitting on the audience, deep breathing exercises does help you. Deep breathe in and deep breathe out very slowly. It will settle your pulse rate much better. Concentrate on your topic. I mean, you don't have to listen to what other person is speaking. You have to concentrate on the topic and try and rehearse your opening lines. Once you open the lines well, your confidence grows and then you can speak much better. Okay, so rehearse on your opening lines while you're waiting for it. You must believe that you can do it. And when on stage, address the audience directly. That's something well. Okay, how to begin? I think going back, I think I need to tell you as how to begin and how to speak. Okay, and how to begin also makes it very, very different. I have to show you some little videos, and I hope I'll be able to show those videos just quickly. Fine, these videos are just to show you what I mean to say. All right, just say this cards of. Are you able to see this? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I am Dr. Shirish Yende, and I am going to give a talk on the art of presentation to you today. Okay, there we are. Where's my mic? Is this working? Where's the pointer? Is this working? Okay, how much time do I have? All right then. Okay then, my topic is... Good morning, my dear friends. A strange thing happened this morning.
Okay, I showed you 3 ways of starting your presentation. You may have noticed that the first way was that I'm Dr. So-and-so and I'm going to speak on this. Whom are you telling? Everybody knows you're Dr. So-and-so and everybody knows who you are and what you're going to speak. So you don't have to repeat those things. Second, of course, was mess. He said, where is my pointer? Where is my this? How much time do I have? And is this working? All right. You should have done this beta much earlier. That is the part of your preparation. You should know that. But have you seen the third way? Third way was different. Third way, he said that good morning. He made direct contact with the audience and he says, strange has happened. A strange thing has happened this morning. Well, suddenly he's attracted the attention of all the people in the audience because there's nothing strange. You need not talk about the strange thing, or you may talk about something that comes to your mind, but we have managed to attract the attention of everybody. And this is what I want to come to, because attracting the attention of everybody at the time of your beginning is very important. So you have to make an emphatic beginning. The other thing is speak slowly and clearly. Use a simple language. Am I heard well? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Speak slowly and clearly. Use simple language. Use short sentences. and be comprehensible all the time. I give you an example. There is a gentleman called Tony Mundy, who is a well-known urologist from London, and he has a very London Cockney accent. You know, I thought you might say that. But when he's on the stage, he speaks differently. He changes his accent completely. He speaks very slowly. He speaks extremely clearly. Now, I remember he's talking to me one day and he said, you Indians speak very fast. I speak very slowly. That's his English way of putting it. But what I mean to say is, whenever he's on the stage, he's so well comprehensible that if he's speaking in London or Washington or Beijing or Singapore or Mozambique, he is universally comprehensible because he has modified his speech, he has modified his accent, he's modified the way he speaks, and he has been so clear and comprehensible that every word is understood by everybody in the audience. And that is something we have to learn from. Using simple language, there is no substitution for it. Use short sentences, obviously, and be comprehensible all the time. And that's the way of being most effective in communicating your thoughts. All right. There are some few tricks how to hold the microphone, and people say the standard is you hold it for 2 to 10 inches from the mouth, 45 degrees angle. That's that he's doing a little lower. He's not holding it straight ahead. 45 degrees. Aim the capsule of the microphone to the mouth. So you aim here so that you have some microphones are axial microphones. You just must speak in front of them and hold the microphone in the middle. And for comfort, keep a medium grip, flexible wrist and elbow down. That doesn't really matter. But what's important is you have to feel at ease and and your voice must reach the microphone in an axial way. Okay. Just give an example. When you speak, the pauses are very appropriate. If this is a sentence like, man of science learns by justification, not by faith, but by verification, yes. But if I want to put it more effectively, what I mean to say is, man of science learns by justification, not by faith, but by verification. That means the keywords must be spoken loudly, slowly, and clearly, so that you'll be comprehensible and audible universally. So I think the delivery has a lot to say on the impact on the audience, no matter what you say. And of course, there are moments of trouble. For example, you get on the stage, you start speaking, you're all prepared, well done, but your presentation does not open. Now what do? Well, my trick is relax and make a friendly gesture. For example, you may say, oh, I had a wonderful welcome today. Thank you very much. We had a refreshing drink on arrival. Oh, the welcome arch was beautiful, and things like that. Your microphone stops working, or lights go off. And it can happen if you go to smaller towns. Very often it happens. So in that case, what do? Well, what I would do is you would try and summarize what you have said so far. So that keeps the audience engaged all the time. Sometimes you forget the opening lines. In that case, you stop, concentrate, and begin slowly. But you do not carry the notes. It doesn't carry a very good impression. So reading from the notes means you are not prepared to speak. Well, you have to be used to this, not to read from the notes. You understand, if you know what you're going to speak, then you don't need the notes. Yeah. Now, sometimes the audience appears bored. And it happens. You are talking to people and they start muttering amongst themselves. And then you know what to do. You can't say, oh, stop talking. No, that's not a good manner. But you can change the pace of your speech and say, but now what I'm going to tell you is, and you say the same thing, what you're going to say. But now that you've changed the pace and you're going to tell them something new, suddenly you attracted their attention again. These are just a few tricks that I thought may have been important to you, but there are some things which you have to have face-saving tricks you have to do, and then you can actually gather their attention back to you. There are some moments of trouble. Some audience can be hostile, and I think the best thing is not to become rude or arrogant. You submit to the hostility and avoid confrontation. I think you are not a politician. You are a doctor, you are one of their colleagues, they're all your colleagues. So avoid confrontation while on stage. Absolutely. Awkward questions. Some people may ask you questions which are very difficult and they want to put you in difficulty. Well, you can say that I don't quite know the answer to this question honestly, but perhaps we could discuss it over the lunch. And that's a good way of tide over the crisis. And you may see him at lunch, you may not see him at lunch, doesn't matter. But this is a better way to do that. I don't know the answer. Honestly, I don't know, but perhaps we could discuss so that I may also learn from you. That's another humbleness that you can show to the audience. Sometimes difficult audience, and I will say the plant a faithful colleague in the audience. I've never done that, but that's an idea that I thought. There's something, somebody wants to put you in difficulty by asking a tough question. The faithful colleague in the audience may get up and say what he means to say is, and he pacify the question for you, or he may actually start answering the question for you. Well, I don't do this, but this is just one thought that I had in mind. You could sometimes do that in order to save the crisis. So these are certain moments of trouble that you may come across in your life when talking to the audience in presentation. So what are the moments of trouble? What are the do's and don'ts in this? Well, do is look energetic and involved because you have come for them. The audience must see you, must find you energetic, must find you involved because you have come for them and they need to know what you want to go to speak. Begin confidently, that's a do. Face the audience directly. I think establishing eye contact is by far the most important. Don't look in a corner and speak because you have gathered your courage to speak something, so you have to just finish it off. And you just avoid the eye contact and say it. It doesn't carry an impression, it doesn't carry the effect. It is not effective enough. So you have to learn to establishing the eye contact and speaking. Obviously, a Zoom meeting is an exception. But again, I presume that this is something that you will all be able to achieve by practice and you must have achieved by now. Okay. And obviously, while you're talking, I think it's better to concentrate on your topic completely and not to let any other thoughts creep into your mind while you're talking. Otherwise, you may lose the concentration and may lose this link of your thought. What are don'ts? Don't hold the microphone in the hand of gestures. It's something I've seen people doing quite often. They hold the mic in the right hand and go on doing gestures with the right hand. They want to say something. But if a general body meeting, for example, they want to make a point and they go on moving their mic and the hand and the sound goes and comes, goes and comes, goes and comes. So, but if you're used to doing gestures, keep your mic in the other hand, which is stable in front of your mouth. Do not stop in the middle. That can produce distraction and then you may find it difficult to catch the link again and start. And obviously, don't show off your knowledge because now you are not here to show what you know. You're here to tell them what they need to know. So make your presentation simple and effective, and that is the main crux of the entire exercise today. So, and how should be the conclusion? Conclusion would be I'm not concluding my talk here, I'm just telling about conclusions of your speech. So summarize your talk, and so that you return to the concepts you mentioned in introduction that you must do. Give clear take-home messages. Do not introduce newer concepts which are not spoken about in the main body of your speech, but return to the concept you have already mentioned in your main body. And conclusion should be strong and well rehearsed. This is very important. That is important. I'll give an example. If I'm going to talk about stem cell technology, I may say, okay, that's all I wanted to say about stem cell technology. Thank you very much. That's one way of doing it. But if I want to make a strong ending, I may say stem cell technology is still in infancy, but the potential it has shown can treat everything from scratch to terminal cancer and thus serve the mankind at large. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And if you see that, it must burst into a spontaneous applause. And that is how you should end your talk. So, my dear friends, I am coming to the conclusions of my talk this morning, and I just want to remind you and come to the important points which I mentioned. Write the complete text at least take the points down so you don't miss out anything. What I normally do is I just write the complete points in a piece of paper with a complete peace of mind. So I know what I want to speak. So write the complete text. Use simple language in your speech. Know the needs of the audience. The language should be tailored to the quality and the needs of the needs of the audience. Okay, and sound preparation and rehearsal are must. Tension and apprehension is a rule, and some amount of tension is necessary so you can focus on your topic. Speak slowly and clearly. There is no compromise on that. Summarize your talk and give clear messages in the end and conclude strongly. So at the end of my talk, I must mention that treat every presentation as your first date. So you be confident, you look confident, you believe in yourself because you always want to do you have to be at your best. And finally, in your speech, say what you mean and mean what you say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yande. I personally thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. And if anybody in the audience wants to ask something now or later on communicate to Dr. Yande, I'm sure he will answer to his emails, and I'll share the email with you after this meeting is over. Are there any questions? Aniket, did you?
No, sir. None in the chat box. Congratulatory messages. That's all.
Thank you, Shirish, then very much. Thank you for helping us get through this thing. I personally think this is a very important aspect because unless you're able to convey your message correctly, whatever work you have done does not have too much relevance. Because if you can't communicate with your peers also, then there is something wrong about the communication within yourself as well. Anyway, thank you very much. I personally enjoyed, and to me, it was a learning experience. Thank you.
Okay, Mohan, thank you so much. I'll catch up with you. I'll continue to catch up with you.
Sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will end this meeting here, and I hope to welcome you again on the next Saturday. Thank you very much.